So if you look at it from the kind of high level, what do we do as a business? We help people hire people. Um, but we can't just go and create content for these like high ranking keywords, like how to hire people, how to, do this. But what we can do is help people for their specific need.
Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free. And now, back to today's episode. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SaaS SEO Show. I'm your host, George Cassiotis, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Regan McGregor. Regan is an experienced B2B and SaaS marketeer who's passionate about working with startups. He currently leads the marketing team at Vervoy, an AI-powered skills testing platform on a mission to make hiring about merit, not background. At Vervoy, Regan focuses on using search to leverage pre-existing demand at scale, combining both paid and organic to build brand awareness and grow the website's organic traffic by more than 700% in 12 months. That's really impressive. Regan, welcome to the SaaS SEO Show.
Thanks for having me, George.
So before we get started, as we do with every guest here at the SaaS SEO Show, I would love to know some things about your journey so far.
Yeah, sure. I guess I sort of started off in marketing in a little bit less traditional sense. I always loved computers and IT and stuff. And so my first job was working in like a computer shop where we built websites, because that's where people built websites back in the day, in DreamWorks and Dreamweaver and Fireworks. And then for a while there, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I worked in different industries and started doing a lot of freelancing, and started sort of building websites for people, and really got like a passion for actually figuring out how to drive traffic to these websites for these small businesses, especially in e-commerce. It was really exciting to help take these small businesses and stuff online, and I kind of just grew that from word of mouth, and then I decided I wanted to do that for like as a job. So I studied sort of software development, and got into like some e-commerce roles, and from there realized like actually the marketing side was where I was really passionate, and grew from there. Worked at some agencies, and I've more recently been working with startups to help them grow their business, and that's kind of what led me to Vervo.
Okay, that sounds interesting, and this brings us, I guess, to today. And today, you're leading the marketing efforts at Vervoy, which is a SaaS company. And could you please, for people who are not aware of the brand, could you please share a couple of things about it, what it does, and who gets the most value out of it?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Vervo is a AI-powered skills testing platform, which means basically we help people hire the right people with confidence, and also hire at scale, reducing bias, and improving people's hiring processes. So we kind of have two sort of key users. We have sort of talent acquisition professionals who say are looking, they might have like thousands of applicants for one role, and they're looking to kind of improve efficiencies, and also at the same time reduce bias, and give everybody an opportunity to show their skills for the job. And then on the flip side, we also have hiring managers like myself who might be hiring an SEO manager or some role that they don't know, like a graphic designer or something like that. And we've built a lot of pre-built assessments through our IO Psych team to allow people to kind of hire with confidence roles that they mightn't even know, the skill sets for, but they know at least the right questions to ask and what good looks like. And our AI basically uses the data sets of thousands of applicants, as well as the preference of the company to basically grade people based on how they answered questions within our assessments.
We will talk about the assessment library because it's one of the things that I'd like us to discuss actually. But before that, I'd like to ask something which is quite of interesting in Vervo's case, which is, I guess, as I see it, that in many cases, the terms that you're going after, and I have an example here, someone could argue have dual meanings or dual interpretations. For example, remote job boards. Okay, someone who's searching for remote job boards may be someone who is, for example, the member of an HR team, and they are looking remote job boards in order to increase the reach of their job posts, or maybe there may be someone who is actually searching for a job seeker. Okay, and I'd like to know how you handle that and how, at the end of the day, you manage to get people at the door who are the ones you want to your content to get seen and to visit your website and so on.
Yeah, for sure. It's an everyday challenge. It's not something that we have a perfect answer to, or there's no silver bullet here. But I think for us, what we do is we kind of ignore the search volume, and we start from the journey. We try and put ourselves in the shoes of a hiring manager or a talent acquisition expert, and we think about our exercise looks at like what content would they be looking for, and if it has a dual meaning, we try and create it in such a way that it's angled towards them. So when, like on that remote hiring job boards one, it'll probably be like to find the best employees or something like that in the title. And so we experiment with stuff like that. Although that will actually affect our click-through rate, we find if we do that, it reduces the bounce rate on the site. People stay longer, people read more content, and we get better quality traffic, which at the end of the day is the thing that we care about. So we kind of take a look at it like that. We also kind of look at the search intent. So we'll take a look at what's showing up in the SERPs. If it's obvious that one term, because it might be two things that are like very close to each other, and if one term is the term that is showing, job boards like Indeed or Monster or Seek or whatever, we'll kind of steer away from going after that term. We'll go after the term that has our competitors in it, or seems to have a lens of hiring manager. The upside of it too is we find that if we put in our title, remote job boards to find the best employees, to find this, we end up getting all these search terms you can't find, that sort of a unique, those unique one search, two search kind of search terms, and Google's able to go, okay, well, they had the word, find employees and hiring and job boards together, and kind of go, oh, well, this is the best result to show. So we see a lot of like not provided kind of traffic coming through that's the right type of traffic. So our focus is looking at like more at the bottom of the funnel, like bounce rate, how long people are staying on the site, and even how are people converting from that content, and then we're adjusting our kind of strategy accordingly.
I like that. I remember that we used to work with a client. The company has now been acquired, and we are working with the company that acquired them. But back then we did an article for them, a blog post on a specific term, and we knew that this specific term is something that we would like people who creative teams to see the result and hopefully click on it and visit our website. And so what we did is that we added this little thing like for creative teams. Okay, it was a listicle essentially with a number of solutions for creative teams, and just adding this little thing gives us for the gave us back then for the target term the first position. And I really think that, you know what, it's not that our con piece was significantly different than what was already out there, but this little thing, this little twist, like, I want you, the creative person, to click on this result. This made the difference and gave us the first position. And up until I think I looked at it last time yesterday, it still has the first position. You know, even though it's the DR is very low compared to the other websites on the top 10, and no links whatsoever or active promotion. So I think that what you're saying makes sense about, you know, trying to target actually the person who you want to see this and interact with it. At the same time, this helps you, I guess. I'd like to hear from you. Eliminate some people from that search. Like, you know what? No, if you are looking for a job board to find a job, like, this isn't for you.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like the whole second part of our SEO strategy is figuring out how to not get people to the site almost, how to get the right people and not the wrong people, because, you know, traffic goes up is great, but if it's the wrong sort of traffic, then it's just a vanity metric that nobody cares about. So we try and remain like super focused and put aside those. We even put aside link opportunities where it can be on the candidate side, because we don't want to, I guess, confuse Google, confuse our readership, what we are and who we're for. And just about, I would say, most of our blog titles probably have something to do with, you know, this thing for hiring managers, for recruiters, you know, to find. It's always the thing and the result, or the audience. It's how we sort of do our SERPs, and it's proven to kind of pay dividends.
I think that this by itself, this first question and answer by itself, is, you know, people got the value. I think the episode can end here. We don't have to continue, but I'd like to continue with something else, which is your assessment library. Quite frankly, I didn't know that, you know, you can find something like that online. And I said, when I saw it, when I was doing the research for this episode, I said, you know what, this could be like useful for us as well, because we are in a growth, hyper growth mode, and we are hiring actively. But besides that, I would like to know the logic behind it, and how you managed to fit in this assessment library into your strategy, and any tips that you may have for people who are listening and may be interested in launching, you know, similar to these initiatives for their own SaaS websites.
Yeah, no. Thanks for asking that. I'm really happy to talk about the assessment library for sure. It fits in easy because, I guess, when I joined, what I identified is how can we scale SEO? How can we go beyond just content, and how can we drive people in at the right stages of the funnel? And so if you look at it from the kind of high level, what do we do as a business? We help people hire people. But we can't just go and create content for these like high ranking keywords, like how to hire people, how to, you know, do this. But what we can do is help people for their specific need. And I say to like the CEO a lot, in a lot of the things we do, what we're trying to do is show them that we know them. And so if we can come along and people come to our website and see, well, for starters, the assessment library is actually something that exists in the product. And what I wanted to do was figure out, okay, how can we firstly make that an experience that people can come to, you know, directly and experience the product before getting into the product, and actually go, is this the thing for me? And so I looked around. It's inspired, I mean, a bit by Canva's kind of template library and how they built things out, and a bit of sort of the product led SEO stuff that Eli Schwartz talks about. And so, yeah, we basically worked backwards and said, okay, this is our product. How can we make that a search experience? And so we took the assessments and we added some content to them, and then we also sort of created a landing page that explained the product as well, in depth. So we sort of started off with what is a very product-like experience, and then kind of had underneath that the content that kind of explained to people who, because at this point they don't know about the product, we're kind of explaining to them, this is what Vervo is, this is how it works. Um, so we started there, and then I guess what I wanted to do was, that led to, okay, how can we do this at scale? How can we make it rank? How can we get lots of people that come to this assessment library? So uh, we actually worked on building those pages quite dynamically. So um, we didn't use any code, but we've sort of, through some creative WordPress plugins and dynamic things, we actually built a lot of the page just by kind of taking the title of the role and writing content that was not generic, but was basically answer that question no matter what the role was. And then we had some content sort of further up the top that was written in a templated form, but was written by humans. So yeah, so that's sort of the assessment library. And then we went, okay, well, now we've got all of these jobs. So basically, the biggest thing is we want to rank for every kind of job title plus assessment, or whatever it may be. We went, okay, how can we scale that further up the funnel? So we've kind of expanded that in the assessment library, where we're also creating sort of landing pages for each skill, landing pages for each category, and sort of hopefully expanding out. Our goal is, anytime you're kind of looking for a skill plus a role or whatever test, will be the person who shows up, and it will drive people straight into the product. Yeah, and I can talk about sort of where we went to from there with our hiring guides and job descriptions, if you like.
Yeah, I would like to know more, because I found it really fascinating. And also I would like to know from, obviously, whatever you can share with us, like, do you see that very often people start their journey, because it has, as you mentioned, like, I would say that it's very close to the product and the product's capabilities, even though I have never used the product, by the way, but I can only assume. But do you see that people actually start their journey with us from the assessment library? They experience some sort of value pre-conversion, and then, this is the exact, it sets the stage as to what is going to follow post-conversion inside the product. And I'd like to
Yeah,
know exactly, any findings or any insights that you can share with us with regards to that.
yeah, for sure. It's a little bit of both. So there is a lot of people who are not at that stage. We're a very unique and kind of, we're a different product in what is an existing category, but also could be considered quite like a, old school pre-employment assessments, and we're kind of taking a technology route of that. So there are definitely people who are already converted to the idea of skills assessments, and um, those people are then just trying to make sure. If I rewind a little bit, one of the biggest kind of changes in this industry was, there was products like that did a lot of code testing. This is very popular in like engineering, um, and people are like, okay, I can just test engineers, and what we're trying to do is show them, no, you can test all of these roles. And so for the people who understand skills testing and understand how that works, the thing we're just trying to do is show them, hey, we know you, we know your role. You can literally come in, plug and play, and sign up, and that's very successful for the people who are converted. But there are people who are not at that stage, and if they come in at that stage, then they're not going to have as a great of experience. And so what we need to do is I guess get them earlier with content that helps them along their journey. before they get to that assessment library.
And you have a lot of content on your website. You have various sections. One of them, the assessment library that we have discussed. Another one, you have job description templates. If I'm not mistaken, you have feature pages or use case pages. I mean, people call them both ways. And you also have a blog post with a lot of content, which is pretty active. And I'd like to know how all these things combined can work in terms of, okay, we know that someone who comes to our blog from for a more top of the funnel, let's say, term may not be ready yet to take an action, but how do you actually manage to get that person from this first touch with you, with Vervo, with the brand, to actually start experiencing some value through the assessment library, for example, and then move forward, sign up for a free trial or get a demo and actually start experiencing the value of the product?
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple of different ways. So I guess I might start with how we kind of worked backwards from the assessment library. So if the assessment library is the bottom of the funnel, right? Like, say that's the people who are converted. They know what skills testing is, and they just want to make sure that their role is there. So if we flip that on its head, what's somebody who's like completely unaware? What are they going to start doing? And so what we went and did is go, okay, let's go to the complete other end of the scale and say, all right, I'm hiring manager. I need to hire a growth marketer. What's the first thing I might do? Maybe I'm a CEO of a startup. I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to search how to hire a growth marketer. And what we've done is created these, good comprehensive guides on how to hire X role, how to hire, X role. From there, we explain what does that job do, the definition, how to write it. We have a link then to the job description. We have a link. We'll have a link to sort of interview questions, and then from there we have a how much do you pay this person, and it kind of keeps going down the kind of questions, the logical questions you might ask if you're hiring for that role. And so what we're trying to do there is actually say, okay, well let's talk to them at the start, and through that landing page or recruitment guide, we explain to them how we see things, how our process works. So we say, do this, write a job description based on skills, conduct a skills assessment, interview to, figure out the sort of skills that they didn't perform on, to dive into that a bit more, make an offer, so on and so forth. And so we start at that level, and then we go, okay, well, that sort of gets people into that stage, and they start being aware of our brand. The next thing you're probably going to do is look for a job description. So you're going to go, oh, okay, they told me I should get a job description based on skills, or you might even come to our website. But logically, the next thing you're going to do, you need to hire that person. You need a job description. Really, they're just job ads, but people call them job descriptions. So they can post them on social media, right? Or the job boards and start interviewing for those people and sending them a skills assessment. So at that point, we've created a bunch of templates based on the skills that are relevant to the assessment. And people are able to basically then take the next logical step once they've put the job up and they've got candidates saying it. They then come back to Vervo and go, okay, what do I do with them next? And they'll know the next thing is send them through a skills assessment. At which point we have it ready for them, asking the questions related to the responsibilities and requirements of that role that we have outlined in the job description. So we're kind of, each step that they take, we want to be there along their journey. So that's kind of one play. And then, if you want to ask any questions on that, otherwise I can go into the kind of blog.
The only one that pops into my mind is, do you think that it works tremendously well, as I can only imagine in Vervo's case, but do you think that this is like replicable, like someone can do it I'm just wondering, I guess, and sorry for rambling here, but I'm just wondering whether this is something that can be applied in other SaaS categories, you know. And I'm not sure. I think it works really well in your case, and it makes perfect sense as you break it down. I'm just trying to think of any other examples that this could be applied on. But in any case, I guess a question that I have here, which is connected to that, I guess, is with regards to your keyword research. Like, how do you come up with these keywords, and how do you understand that this is the logical, you know, like this is what people are going to search for next? And not only that, but I know that for that, it seems that if I want to scale this app, I may have to do it in a more, let's say, programmatic way, or I have to create another section, which is going to be my job description template section. So the first question would be, how does your keyword research process at the beginning of all of this look like? And at the same time, did you treat it like a one-off, or is it a dynamic process? You still discover new terms, new angles that you have to go after, you know, as you get to learn your customer base and so on.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good question. I think it was a bit of, there was kind of multiple parts of it. Um, so initially we kind of sat down and worked out. We spoke to our team. We tried to get an understanding. We tried to get an understanding from sales calls. We got an understanding from competitors, and also sort of non-competitors, people who are competing for maybe the same search terms but not the same share of wallet, and understand what they're doing. Um, and then we kind of mapped out what that process looks like. And there's stuff that we haven't done yet that we want to do, but we kind of said, okay, what's the steps? What's the steps to get people here? And from there, it was more about just getting the right terminology. So we knew, like, okay, we knew they're going to look for some recruitment guide, hiring guide, whatever. And we found how to hire this role. We, ran that across a bunch of different a bunch of different roles in different categories and established that was the term. And then we grabbed content from there. We assessed sort of what semantically that needed to have. And we created a bit of a template. And our goal was to just get something live, not have something perfect, just kind of answer the most logical questions we thought as part of the process based on our keyword research. And we ignored some stuff like, we don't try and rank for salary. We rank for how much does it cost to hire X. And the reason is because salary is typically, well, it's very competitive, but it's typically it's typically a term that is associated with the candidates. They want to know sort of how much these people are going to pay, or how much I should be asking for this role. And so we actually wanted to be really specific and say, okay, no, we want to get hiring managers with that kind of terminology. So I think, I guess, talking to your team, mapping out your customer journey, speaking to customers, understanding the process, and then I guess it's just a bit of it's just a bit of templatization and kind of logical assumption. Like, well, we know how to hire. We can just put any role there, and it's kind of gonna, maybe the keyword's not perfect. Sure, maybe people are searching for it, like recruitment guide, hiring guide. What is it? So we just kind of went broadly and focused on the one that kind of made the most sense, and from there we were able to understand. Because the thing is, like, with a scalable strategy like this, you just got to get the data. You can think about it as much as you want, but if you don't have the data, you won't understand what to do. And so that's kind of the way in which we went about it. I think from there, like with the templates and that kind of thing, I think we knew we wanted to rank for stuff like how to write a job description and do this kind of stuff, but that stuff's extremely competitive. But what we knew our competitors and and likewise couldn't do is create hundreds and hundreds of these guides and JDs at scale. And I think it actually, what happens is we've created this kind of topical relevancy around, say, a job description, because people have, like, Google's looking at it and going, okay, well, they've got a lot of information about job descriptions, but they've also got a lot of information about these roles, because we have all of these interconnected pieces of content that talk about one particular role. And so as we scale it, it becomes kind of easier, and it's less, the keyword selection doesn't matter as much, because Google's kind of given us the benefit of the doubt, especially with the assessment library. Like, we're going after one term, but we rank for a bunch of stuff we didn't even bother with. But Google's just kind of gone, oh, that's topically relevant, so I'll just kind of like chuck it in there.
One thing that I'd like to ask here is, do you have trying to scale things up and create content or pages for a specific section of the website at scale? Do you have the fear of duplicate content, or is there something that you do as part of your process to ensure that, you know what, our content will be unique? How do you work this out? I'd like to know.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. So I guess there's a couple of things to it. We base everything off our assessment library. So we have like an insane Airtable, but basically the way the process looks is we've gone through and identified every job role, and then we've merged all of the ones that are similar. And so that was kind of step one of our project. And then we've created an assessment for every job role, prioritizing the ones with the most search volume. So we said, okay, well, and not because we want people to find them, but because we want to basically give people what they want. If more people are, we basically think, oh, well, that must mean there's more demand for this role. And then from there, what we do is we basically go through a checklist and say, okay, we've got this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing. And so that's kind of the approach. On top of that, though, it's only like the content is only, I'd say, 50% templated, and the rest is unique. The stuff that, like in the job description, the kind of blurb and summary and that kind of thing, and the headings, they're templated. But the actual roles and responsibilities, they're written by HR professionals or subject matter experts in that industry, to make sure that that content is A, not duplicate, but also B, actually good, and somebody actually wants to use it. Because if we just tried to use AI content or kind of, some like rudimentary stuff, I think we get no traffic to the pages, and like it would all be for nothing. So yeah, we also do it, the kind of third part of it is we also do it all together. And so the way we approach it is the content writer, or usually they're like an SME, they will get given the assessment, and then they do everything. So they'll write the skills synopsis, all of that stuff. Then they'll write the job description. Then they'll write the hiring guide, or whatever. Doesn't matter the order, but they do it all at the same time for the one role, so it's coherent across the whole thing, and we pay them like that. We don't get them to do it in steps. So that way, you're getting all of the interconnected content as well, and so the journey isn't broken, but you're making sure the content remains unique and remains specific. And we don't use our blog content writers for it. Like, they're doing a completely different job. These people are, have this particular skill and a particular process that they go through. So that way, it's actually good content, but then we're not too worried about duplicate. I will say one bit we do run into is, I guess, the issue of like senior X role, junior X role, that kind of thing. I still haven't figured out the solution to that. except for make the content a bit more unique. But I think Google is sort of catching up in that regard to understand like what the difference between a senior SEO and a manager and an SEO and manager is. But hopefully,
The thing
the
here,
good thing is actually we end up with like double results on Google quite often. So it'll be like SEO manager, and then underneath it will be senior SEO manager, like indented. And so people end up with both sort of in the SERP. So it's great anyway.
yeah, that's great, definitely. The thing here with regards to this specific example, like even companies, I don't know, even SEO professionals may not know what's the difference between an SEO manager and senior SEO manager, because the thing also is depending on the company size, depending on many different factors, people may have different, meanings when it comes to what do we mean exactly when we say SEO manager as opposed to senior SEO manager. We are running out of time, but I have one last question for you, which would be, before we go, which would be, you are working with SaaS companies for quite a while now, and you had like very, very good, very impressive results with Vervo. And I would like to ask, what are your biggest mistakes, if you can share any mistakes that you have done so far, and at the same time, what are the learnings that you've got from your journey so far?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, I don't know that it's a mistake so much as a learning, but one it is a bit of a. I guess one thing I've learned is to a couple of things. Remain focused is very important. Like I think as SEOs and as growth marketers, like we get this kind of great ideas and there's so many things we can do, and like I think about it with Vervo, like there's more to just the assessment library and stuff, and every day I'm like, oh, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. Um, but actually, what's most important is like remaining focused on scaling out that section rather than having like 50 half done projects. So focus is really important. I think that's an area where I've definitely made some mistakes, wasted time on things that to me were important but actually didn't move the needle. And I guess second to that is you just got to get stuff out there. Like especially with this scalable strategy, for example, like where I've made mistakes in the past is spending too much time trying to have the best content, the best articles, the best this, the best that. But what you'll actually find is you just chuck up something that is, if you know, as a perfectionist, most of the things I chuck up that I'm not happy with are pretty good. And so, like, if you, especially if you're a perfectionist, if you can move past that and just go, okay, I'll just get it up, and then you'll learn so many things. Like I've learned so many things from the JD library, for example, around like um, things I thought were great ideas are just not just didn't work out, or things that didn't work. Um, and so I think they're kind of two. They're very close related. But if you can remain focused and you can just get MVPs of things out, um, then you can start learning. And once you do that, you're in a much better situation. I mean, sort of lastly to that too, like in this role and in other roles, I've wasted some time chasing like channels that don't drive results, or will take a lot of effort. If you can't afford to do it properly, then you probably shouldn't do it. Um, you know, we've kind of gone down the realm of like, you know, big brand campaigns and this and that and the other, and while they definitely can work, we're a very small marketing team. We're a startup. We're trying to grow at a rapid pace. Um, if we don't have somebody who can spend that time on that thing, it's just not worth it.
I think that's a great way to wrap things up. This whole episode was very insightful, and I'm sure that people will find value in it. Last question before we go, call to action for our listeners. Where can people find out more about you and Vervo and get in touch if they like to?
Yeah, sure. people can just look me up on LinkedIn. I can give you the link for the show notes. Just Regan McGregor. Jump on Vervo. We have a free trial, 90 days. You can play around with it. You can take a look at our assessment library. You can hire a role without paying a cent. So jump on there and have a go. And
That's great. Regan, thank you very much for being on the show, and looking forward to the next episode where we'll have you on when you will have to share even more exciting results and learnings and insights from your efforts. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks, George.
Before you go, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free.